It's great to see you guys today. You know, it's amazing all the things that have happened in the last 14 years. The pastor can't count, by the way. I've been saying 13 all weekend. I made the video. I put 13 in the video. And then I realized, wait a second, this picture's from 2011. Let me do some math. My math was so bad that I asked ChatGPT, if we started in 2011 September, well, how old are we? And it answered me like I was an idiot. It gave me like 4 years around, like, well, 3 years ago you would have been, and I'm like, yeah. I know how numbers work. Thank you, chat. We're a lot of help. So anyway, I feel like I'm closed in today for some reason. That's just weird. So I remember, let me ask you this real quick, because I don't know in this room. How many of you were with us our very first service at the community center? Anybody with? Okay. So a few folks here, so look around. Glad to see you still. We're sad to see you. Yep. You guys have put up with me that long. Tom's now a family member. That's what happened. So anyway, that's how it works. So anyway, I remember, if you've seen the picture with the surfboard, I remember thinking we had more questions than answers at that time. We just knew what God wanted us to do next, and we were just taking one step at a time. We had no idea where we were going to meet. The funniest question was, Eric, how are you going to get paid? I don't know. That was a great answer. I guess I'm working at McDonald's, and several people offered me jobs at McDonald's, so thanks. But and teaching school. But God has worked it all out. I can look back and see, especially the times that we weren't sure what was going to happen next. And here's why I'm telling you about the church. Because I've been through this whole journey from the very beginning, from the time we met in a house to discuss whether we started a church or not. From the time talking to good friends and having Pastor Harold Brantley call me and encourage me to start a church. And going through all those things and thinking, do I even want to do that? Do we just want to do something different? And let me tell you how we did that. And this is what we're going to talk about today. One step at a time. And so today I want to talk about this idea of wisdom when life stinks. And so we're going to talk about 3 ways that faith works when life stinks. And what I mean by life stinks is I don't mean necessarily that your life is hard. It may be. But it could just be that you have a question you don't know how to answer. Or you don't know what's going to happen yet. Or the doctor called you and said, come see me right away. By the way, I never like the right away. When my doctor's not in a hurry, that's always great news. When the doctor or dentist say 6 months, I'm like, woo-hoo, shoo-hoo, because I've had the doctor too often say, tomorrow. And I went, oh no. So anyway, there's a baby that's really cute over here, and it's distracting this whole section. And the pastor. Apparently, she is so cute. Okay, sorry. See, that's what you miss if you're watching online. We love you, and we're glad you're watching online, but you're missing the cute babies today. So, and the pastor spilling coffee on his grandson. That's what I did. Did you see me do that? I tried to get him to try it. All right, here we go. Imagine if you landed on a desert island like Castaway. Where you landed, you had very few, if any, supplies, and you had to make do. You would have to answer every single question, starting with, what do I drink? What do I eat? How do I stay warm? How do I clothe myself? How do I survive? And then hopefully, how do I get off of this island? Okay? And the truth for many of us, and this is why kids are struggling. So I'm going to tell you, if you have grandkids or neighbor kids or nephews or nieces, this might help you to help them. Because they live in a world that is throwing more and more questions at them that they don't have answers to. And something inside of them is saying, you're all alone to figure out the answers. And that's the enemy. The enemy wants you to think. And if you haven't had those moments where you feel all alone and you're trying to figure out what's next, that's the enemy lying to you, telling you it's all on you. And today I want to tell you the best news is that it's not all on you. You can go to God. God wants to walk you through this. And okay, take a second. Look around. Let's just look around. There's some crazy people in there. But I mean, there's some wonderful people in this room. Don't point at the crazy ones. That's not nice. Okay? And don't point up here. That wasn't really nice. But here's the thing, Lee. Here's the thing. Had to do it. So here's the truth. You're not alone, and there are people who've been through what you're walking through, or something similar, maybe not exactly the same, who maybe, just maybe, God will put them in your path in this church, in a small group, when you go to lunch, when you just happen to help with an event, when you go on a mission trip, with meetings after church today. That was a side announcement if you didn't catch that. And when you see those people, it may just be that somebody says, I've been through that, let me tell you what I did. And it could just be that God hands you some wisdom that way. Now, we're starting in the book of James today, and I'll come back to it, but I want to read the first point and then read the first passage before I talk about James himself and tell you about him. So here we go. Faith stands strong in testing. And the book is being introduced, James 1. By the way, if you're here at our church for very long, I love to teach on James. So if you've been here more than 2 years, you've heard James. If you've been here 4 years, you're like, hasn't he done this a few times? If you've been here 13 or 14 years, or you think 13 is 14, you know I've taught on James several times. James is the New Testament Proverbs, and we'll talk about that in a second. Here it is. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. So he's primarily talking to the Jewish people that are everywhere. Greetings. Consider it, and this is for us, and this is for you today, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. I don't hear TV preachers teaching this message. They're teaching you just love God and send money to me and all your problems go away. I would love to tell you that. I tell people all the time, you give $20 and you put it in the offering plate here, and when you leave, you will have $20 less. Can almost promise that. But he says, you will go through trials of many kinds. Why? Because you know that the testing, and I'll come back to that word, of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work. Why? So you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And this is one of the trials that's going on with young people. They haven't been through anything yet, so they haven't built their muscles when it comes to what? Perseverance. God working on them. Because this word here for this whole idea of testing is the idea of what happens to metals. And what do? They purify metals by heating them up. And what happens? They're more valuable now. So over time, as you go through tests, what bothered you years ago doesn't bother you now. I was the greatest parent in the world until I had children. I mean, I watched other parents and I thought, boy, they don't know what they're doing. Kyle got cloth diapers for a while. We were going to be all wholesome. Thank you, Publix. Ricky never saw a cloth diaper. Maybe I wore it on my head. That's about it. Used it to wipe the car down. They work really well for that. The truth is, sometimes we've got to go through things in life for us to learn. James understands this. Why? Because James is the half-brother of Jesus. Remember, he had a different dad. Right? So James, the half-brother of Jesus. And you realize there's one point in the Bible that Jesus' own family is coming to get him. And that's when he says, who are my mother and brothers? Do you know why they're coming to get him? Because they're coming to take him away, ha-ha. They're coming to take him away, ho-ho, ha-ha, hee-hee, to the funny farm, where life is beautiful all the time, with trees and flowers and chirping birds, and right? If you know that song, your back hurts today. So, that was too much noise. You got to hold that in a little. So here's the thing. He thought Jesus was crazy, but after Jesus' death and resurrection, he recognizes who Jesus is, not only gives his life to Jesus, but he's one of the first martyrs. And this book of the Bible is probably the first New Testament book written. And so when you read these online guys going, nobody ever claimed that Jesus was God and blah, blah, blah. His own brother, right here, early on, not long after Jesus died, claims it. Why do we know it was early on? Because he was martyred. He was thrown off the temple by the Jewish leaders and killed. 100-foot drop. And early on, he's saying, consider it joy. Because God's working on you. He's maturing you. And so these kids that are feeling lonely and feeling out of it, some of the reason they're feeling that way is, number one, they think they have to be alone. And, come on, they're on their phones too much. By the way, if you're feeling lonely, can I tell you a secret? Go to Publix. Well, what do you mean go to Publix? I mean, put your phone down. Get around people. Talk to the produce man. I don't care. Talk to somebody. By the way, if you go to Miami to a Publix, they don't talk to you in the store. Did you know that? When you check out in Miami, if somebody talks to you, if the cashier talks to you, everybody behind you will yell at them. My sister, when she moved to Brevard County, said, hey, they don't anymore, they talk now.
I got tremendous help from the cashier and the people in the line.
Well, my sister called me. Okay, another story. All right, here we go. Romans 5. We're going to talk about Publix. I don't know why, but there we go. I'm glad I'm not the only ADD person in this room. Not only so, but we also glory, Paul says, in our sufferings. That word for glory in the NIV is the word rejoice. In your version, it might say rejoice, but it means both. It means to glory and find joy at the same time. Because we know suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. One of the biggest dangers that you can do for your grandchildren or your children or your nephews or nieces is to do everything for them. You have to let them fall down so they can learn how to get up. Now, I'm not saying you let them fall down and get bruised and cut up and fall down a mountain and not help. I'm not saying that. Find the boundaries, but they've got to find their own way. They've got to find out who they are. So they need to find their independence so they can grow and persevere and learn. Our parents did not know where we were. My mom at this point says, please don't tell me. She literally said that to me. I started to tell her, I said, you know where we used to go? And she goes, I don't want to know. So here's your first prayer. Lord, help me choose joy in trials. So let me give you a practical way to do that, okay? You might have something right now that you're asking a question about. And when I introduced the sermon, you thought of that question. So I want you to just thank God that He's going to help you walk through whatever that is. Lord, thank you that you're going to walk me through this. So start there. That's how you find joy. Number 2, faith seeks wisdom in trouble. There's nothing wrong with seeking wisdom from a friend. But sometimes all we're doing really is complaining. We're not really seeking wisdom. We're just seeking somebody to agree with us. Right? And the most important thing you can do is seek God's wisdom. Listen to what he says next. James says, if any of you lacks wisdom. Anybody in here lacking wisdom? Anybody? Anybody? I'm going to raise some of your hands. I'm coming out there. Howard, come on. Higher. Higher! All right. Poor Howard. Sorry. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask of God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it'll be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like the wave of the sea, blown and tossed in the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded, unstable in all they do. So it's, God, I need your wisdom. By the way, seeking an answer from God is not just asking for peace. We have to be very careful because we confuse peace with being left alone. Sometimes we think peace means not doing anything about stuff. Sometimes the best decision you can make is to deal with something head on, and that doesn't always bring peace. Have you noticed that, spouses? Sometimes dealing with something means that you have to have a conversation, and that's not easy. But that's when you have to say, I need wisdom. How do I deal with this? How do I walk through this? How do I do this? And sometimes what I tell people to pray, because people sometimes will have two choices, and neither one of them is more spiritual than the other. And they're like, I don't know which one I should do. And I tell them, when you don't know, say, God, your Holy Spirit lives in me. Would you help me to want what you want? And to not want what you don't want. That's called obedience, by the way. And so if you know an area in your life where you're disobedient, that's where you start. And then you say, God, I want to be obedient in this area too. We call disobedience sin, by the way, and that's what confession is for. Lord, I'm out of line in this area, and I know it. I want to be right with you. And, Lord, would you help me to desire what I should desire over here? If you're over here doing whatever you want, don't expect this answer to be right either. Does that make sense? Proverbs 2:6, and I told you, James is like the New Testament Proverbs. He just gives a lot of practical advice. The reason I love this book. In the Old Testament it says this, for the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. And this word for wisdom in the Hebrew means practical wisdom. It's something you can do something with. You ever had somebody give you a bunch of advice and it meant nothing because you couldn't do anything about it? It's practical wisdom. So here's your next prayer. Lord, give me wisdom to walk faithfully with you. So here's how I would tell you. This week, when you're making a big decision, ready? I'm going to show you the symbol for a big decision. A lot of you saw this with the Gators this weekend, right? I'm sorry. That was painful. I'm sorry. My daughter goes to USF. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so, sorry. You paid a lot to lose. Okay, where's Brian? Brian, how am I doing, buddy? Yeah, he's all for it. All right. We're not going to talk about your team, though. Okay, so, all right. So here's the thing. When you have a big decision this week, time out. Lord, I want to pause and pray. I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to fret. I'm not going to freak out. I'm going to lay it at your feet and say, God, would you help me to know what to do? And by the way, slower oftentimes is better. Sometimes the dumbest things we do is because we got in a hurry. Remember that car you bought from that guy that somebody told you was honest? You got in a hurry, didn't you? Don't get in a hurry. Say, God, you help me to do what's right. Charles Spurgeon says this, wisdom is the right use of knowledge. To know is to be wise, but to know how to use knowledge is to have wisdom. Number 3, faith anticipates the trophy. Believers in humble circumstances should take pride in their high position, but the rich should take pride in their humiliation, since they'll pass away like a wild flower. For the sun rises with scorching heat and withers the plant. Its blossom falls, its beauty is destroyed. This is not encouraging. Listen to what it says next. In the same way, the rich will fade away even while they go about their business. What is James saying? He's saying, you know what? If you're poor, it doesn't matter. But if you're rich, it doesn't matter. Because one day, you're going to be in eternity. So then he says this, blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown, and that's the word for wreath, of life the Lord has promised to those who love him. Paul says in 2 Timothy 4, the last book that Paul wrote is 2 Timothy. He says, I've fought the good fight. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award me on that day. The final prayer is, Lord, help me remember that my future is secure. So as you go through life, do the 100-year test. Okay, this seems like a huge problem right now. Is it going to matter 100 years from now? Some of you might say, is it going to matter a month from now? Or 10 years from now? But 100 years from now, is it going to matter? And that's how you can begin to get perspective. I want to leave with a final thought and a final story, because this story reminds me of our church, because of how this group treated each other. In the late 70s, there was a group of special needs students who were running in the Special Olympics. And as they ran in the Special Olympics, they were running like a 100-yard dash or something, maybe a 50. As they ran, one of the kids fell down and began to cry. And a bunch of the kids stopped, went back, and picked up the kid and carried him across the finish line with them. They all finished together. When we talk about getting this crown of life, can I tell you that you're not in competition with other people for the best crown? Your goal should be to turn around and see somebody that's hurting, to see somebody who's struggling and say, let me help you on this journey to find the wisdom, find your way home, to find the wisdom God has for you because He's given it to me. And especially if you've been through something hard, go back and help somebody else who's going through something hard. If you've been through a struggle, use that struggle to help somebody else to get to the finish line. And I hope one day in heaven as a church that we'll be able to look around and go, hey, look who's here. When I walk in, they'll all be surprised. Oh, there really is grace. But we look around and people say, I'm here because they picked me up. They carried me. They brought me help. I'm going to pray in just a second. If you want to know what it means to give your life to Jesus because He loves you, He wants to have a relationship with you, but you've got to surrender to Him. You can't just do whatever you want and be a Christian. It's discipleship. It's following Him. So today, if you're ready to follow Jesus, surrender your life to His, I'd love to talk to you after the service about what it means and what He did for you. And if you're here today and you're in one of those decisions, I want you to feel free to take this sermon and apply these things this week to that question. And as always, I'm always glad to pray for you. There's a prayer wall in the back you can fill out. I love to pray for those prayer requests. You can call me, you can text me. Let's close in prayer. Would you join me? Father, thank you for this time together. Thank you for your word. Lord, thank you that you give us wisdom in struggle. Lord, I thank you also that even through trials we can find joy because we know you're going to walk with us. Father, I pray for that one who's going through something extra hard today. Lord, they don't feel joy. They just feel sadness. They just feel overwhelmed. Lord, would you even today, by them being here, let them know your presence and let them know that there are other people too that are going to help them walk through what they're dealing with. Lord, I pray in the meantime too, you'd give them the comfort of your Spirit. Lord, be with that one that has a question today they're trying to figure out the answers to. May you begin to give them the desires of your heart for their heart. In Jesus' name, amen.